All information given in this episode is for educational purposes and should not be tried prior to consulting a licensed physician and or certified state or accrediting bodies. We encourage all listeners to research, talk, and make all inquiries to all of the important professionals and governing bodies before acting on any information heard on the De La Fit podcast. Any action taken by any listener is done by and under their own omission and action, whether conscious to the results positive or not.
Tuned in to the De La Fit podcasts, 360 degrees of holistic fitness and health, all in one podcast.
Salutations and proclamations. It is I, it is you, it is us, it is we. Together we make up the digital family that is the De La Fit podcast. I'm your host, Philly's #1 son, aka the Body Alchemist, Sun Moon Bey, bringing you another podcast excursion. Welcome everybody and happy Friday. It is July the 10th, 2020, and we have an excellent show for you. We are going to be discussing mental fortitude and ways to find the path of mental spiritual freedom. Something that I think is going to be very interesting. Also part of this conversation is going to be fear and the media, which has been it's been a consistent conversation that we've been talking about this year relatively. I think it's something that's warranted just because of the fact of so much of what's going on in our current times. Our special guest today will be David Bey. For those of you that follow the show, you know that David has been a consistent guest here on the De La Fit podcast. He is a wellness practitioner. He is a brand and he is a business brand professional as well, helping individual businesses develop specific points of their brand to shine amongst all other businesses. And as well as that, David is an accomplished vegan chef with at least 15 to 20 years of experience traveling in the Southeast Asia areas and learning different styles as well as different styles of Moorish and Moroccan cooking. And he is also a life and wellness coach. So he's going to be here and we're going to be discussing again the topic of mental fortitude and dealing with fear, something that I think is something I know I constantly work on. Fear is something that I find is a boundary. It is a boundary. And I know just for myself, it's something to consistently be worked on. Because fear, when there is fear, there is, if not properly held in check, irrational action. And I am not the type of person, I don't like to act irrationally. I don't like to see people act irrationally. And right now, even in the situations that we've been dealing with in the past few months, I think that we would, as a whole, as a country, be much further along if we were, or rather had the tools that would allow us to function with a more clear-headed mindset, one that could allow us to maneuver in balance with fear. Because the thing of it is that fear is not something you just get rid of. I mean, you get rid of it. There is a knowledge bank, an awakening when you are cognizant of the dangers, but you're not fearful. You know that the dangers are there, and fear is to help you be aware of dangers to keep you safe. But it's once you have that knowledge of that danger, you can be aware of what to do and then make rational, educated choices. And that's I think, the balance that we need more than ever in Western culture, specifically here in the United States. So I am so excited. We're going to have this great conversation in just a few minutes after we have a word from our sponsors. So let's get to it. De La Fit Podcast is sponsored by Mountain Made CBD. Mountain Made is changing the CBD game by offering a line of high-dose CBD tablets at an affordable price. Their products are THC-free and third-party tested for accuracy, cleanliness, and potency. Their products, which ship nationwide, include Build for CBD saturation, Boost for precision titration, Recovery for rest and rehab. With 9 years experience in hemp and fitness, Mountain Made's founders are focused on creating a quality product to help those who live an activated lifestyle. Check out www.mountainmade.life to find out more about how their products can help you crush life. Remember, their products ship nationwide. Go check out their website today and follow them on social media at MNTMADE. I started using Mountain Made's Build CBD tablets to help me with the injury in my elbow. And let me tell you something. Not only is the injury subsided, but now I can do push-ups and I'm back to bench pressing. So I encourage anybody who's interested to look up, check out Mountain Made and all their products. I think you'll be glad you did. What's going on, everybody? It's Philly's #1 son. Listen, if you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. It's free. There's a creation tool that allows you how to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a stunning podcast in one place. So listen, if you want to be like me and have your own podcast, go to anchor.com. That's anchor.com.
You're now tuned in to the De La Fit Podcast.
360 degrees of holistic fitness and health. That is the De La Fit Podcast. Again, so much to be thankful for, so much to be aware of in these times, these ever-changing times. We've talked about this so much. The mental aspects of the virus. Many of us know what's going on physically. Many of us know, or I should say, we have heard and unfortunately seen the travesty that is taking place around the world. And the physical aspects are so apparent. The fear of the unknown giant that we see is out there is what claims most of us, along with the anxiety. We talk to numerous individuals, and we will continue to have these conversations as we progress. I have brought with me today a special guest who has been on the show plenty of times, and we're going to be discussing more about this topic of the mental aspects and typically about the discipline that it now takes for us to effectively survive. With me right now, I have David Bey. David Bey is a well-known health and wellness practitioner. If you do not know him, I suggest that you Google him. He deals in what I would like to say the 360 degrees of design and life and wellness, which is health, fitness, and art. To me, all of those are very particularly paramount to our survival. And he's going to be talking a little bit about this with us today. David, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thank you. Thank you for having me back on the show.
So, David, for those out there, first let's deal with the first thing. Let's take people a little bit through some of your wellness journeys so that they can get a little bit better acquainted with you. I know you've been on the show before, but for some of the newer listeners, take them through a little bit of your fitness experience and wellness experience of how you've become who you are.
Yes, sir. So my journey started back when I was very young, and I say specifically around 15, 16 years old. I trained in Philadelphia with a martial arts master of a form called Sekou Chinyelu. And I've been in that art form for over 15 years. That particular training really invoked the spiritual warrior in me to take on the healing arts and help build humanity. And some of the principles that we developed through were as part of the 5 stages, one being strength, firmness, a fighter, champion, and being invincible. And we often say invincibility belongs to the creator, but it's a place to aspire to. And these 5 principles, or these stages, allowed me to develop myself, my mental fortitude, my ability to navigate situations in life. I use these as a stepping stone to deal with life as it presents itself. Later on in my journey, I took courses in Kundalini Yoga, which I call it the grandmother of Kundalini of yoga systems, because it's a very challenging. It reminds me of the martial arts system. It develops awareness, vitality, and one's purpose. The particular system I was under had 2 teachers, and they were lifetime practitioners, so they had a lot to share. From there, I went. Zen Qigong. I'm a level 1 Zen Qigong instructor. Dealing with Qigong movements. Qigong is a practice cultivated in China. It's one of the energy practices, and we may see Tai Chi or those. It comes out of the Qigong practice. It's moving energy and allowing oneself to self-healing, transmission of energy. They also have practices of acupuncture and etc. But it's another practice for spiritual and mental development. Over the years, I've developed and kind of utilized these 3 points of my areas in my life to move on as a spiritual life coach and helping people to gain their own abilities and giving it in such a format that they can matriculate on their own in life. And some of those things, the way I do inspirational speaking, later on in recent times, I developed a system called Rejuvenate, and it's a way to get people to assess where they are in their life, where they want to go, and to see, do you have the gas or the juice to get to what you want to do? So currently, I'm a wellness practitioner that helps busy professionals to create a healthy, vibrant lifestyle. I have meditation practices that I developed. I have, at some point when it's the ability to do the tours, when we have freedom of movement, the tours to natural healing spaces where people can really take the lessons and put them and be in a natural environment around plentiful, fruitful foods and meditation, and give them a 10-day sort of rejuvenation restart.
I think it's ironic that you use the term restart, because it made me think of reset. And from looking at everything that's taking place, I talked to Amanda Webster, who is a holistic practitioner, a wellness practitioner as well. She was on the show, and we were discussing the fact of how it's almost as though it's a parent that has punished, or just to say discipline. I don't want to say punish, discipline their child. You know, we have or humanity has had, specifically in the Western world, a lot of privileges. And as of right now, a lot of those privileges seem to be being taken away. Just like a child, you know, when a child is not doing as they are supposed to do, when a child is a little unruly, a good parent steps in and disciplines their child. And it can be at that time for them rather discomfort, you know, have a lot of discomfort, or for that child even to perceive some pain. But in the long run, it betters the child. And I feel that Mother Nature, or the great God of the universe, or the divine energy, whatever individual's definition that they feel comfortable to call this energy, is doing the same with us. In a sense, I feel that it's making us leave everything alone and become more disciplined within ourselves. But it feels as though a lot of individuals right now are having difficulty with that. I know you pay attention to social media, maybe not as much as I do, but the series of challenges and things going on, and individuals, I see a lot of individuals talking about bored. Oh man, I'm bored. I've walked past my sofa 3 times today, or I've done this, I've done that. David, how do we begin to master the boredom, master this situation, or adapt to the situation? Master might be rather strong. How do we begin to adapt to the situation and in a sense, make the best out of a rather difficult situation?
Excellent question. I probably am watching as much social media as you are.
It's hard not to do.
Yeah. My purpose of doing that is to get a pulse on where the state of mind is for, let's say, the mass majority. Doing the work that I'm doing, it's really important that you understand where people are. So I don't make any assumptions that I know where people are. I have to understand through the mediums in which they're expressing themselves. Right now, it happens to be social media, and there's a lot of expressions. To your point, there's a couple steps when I think about my own personal journey, and there's something that we need to first focus on is our direction. So why are people feeling bored? They don't know where they're going. We're probably stuck in a routine, and they were doing that thinking that was the direction of their life. Let's say I'm trying to get paid. Let's put it in natural, unnatural, some natural terms that people might want to use. I just want to get paid, and that may be the direction of their life. That is not the direction of your life. Because once you're not paid, then what? So the direction of your life has to do with where are you developing that will feed your soul, right?
All right.
So, and I say that specifically because why there is boredom. Let's break this down. Why is there boredom? I don't know what to do. That's why you're bored. We get bored because we don't know what to do. And we went through all our little routines, and that's not fulfilling our soul. And we're actually, in this particular timing, we are being, I won't like to say forced, but we are being highly motivated.
Very true.
To look at the core of what is feeding our soul. So, taking the words from one of my teachers, he said, when we feel this emptiness and this emptiness inside, is because we haven't been cultivating ourselves. Mm-hmm. And because of that, when we engage in hardship, confrontation, difficulties, and even suffering, we oftentimes try to go back into our reserves, and we go in there. It's like going into your bank account. You thinking you all ready and you got all that you need, and you look in there and it's a deficit. And then you don't have what it takes to manage the situation. So what do? Now that we got a view of this, inside of each human being is a soul. We need to start to be still and get connected to that soul. And then understand what it needs to be fortified, strengthened, empowered. So what did that look like if you were looking at a person who was feeding their soul? One, they may be listening to positive conversations or engaging in positive conversations that build their future. So let's say, for instance, the person says, well, one of the things that feed my soul is writing music. And I want to share that music with other people to inspire them as well. Maybe perhaps feed their soul. And that person, you see them actively engaging in that. Maybe a person who writes poetry. It might be a person who paints. It might be a person who builds. But if you get the theme of what I'm saying, it has to do with creativity. Right. So
yes, I do. I'm sorry. I was getting a drink of water.
That's all right. That's another thing right there. What feeds you is hydration and things like that. But we're not going to get into that right in this moment. But we have to take an assessment. Have I been doing the things that have been really calling me in my heart? Some people say, I don't know what my calling is, or we haven't been still enough to actually hear and know. So first thing, sit down. And for all those who don't know what to do, here's a great exercise. Break out with your notebook or your computer or your tablet or your phone. You can write it down or you can record it. Press the record button and just start sharing about what it is that you love to do. Or write it down. What is it that you're passionate about? There is a relationship to what you're passionate about that is feeding your soul. Now, then you got to ask yourself, am I doing it? Am I actively participating in this thing that I say that I am passionate about? Yes or no? Right?
David, what if the individual is looking and they don't find anything that they're passionate about? Because I'm sure that's going to pop up in somebody's mind.
Yes. Very good question, because when I do consultations, some people say, I don't know what I love. I remember I had a gentleman who was like that, and he was like a hard nut to crack. I mean, he was just so adamant about, I have no talents, I have no skills. I just do what I do, and I do what I have to do. And I said, I got that. But there's something that you actually love. Now, what we're going to need to do is uncover all the blocks you put in the way because you didn't see what you love as being valid. Right? Gotcha. Some people have passions, but someone told them along the way, you can't do anything like that's not going to make you money. It's not about making money with your passions. It's about feeding your soul. You got that?
Very true. Very true. Definitely very true. I can identify with this just because of the fact of, well, I wouldn't have gotten here without having to take that journey. So I can relate to anybody out there who might have that thought where I don't know what I'm passionate about. I don't know. In fact, I used to get extremely upset when somebody would ask me, "What's your passion?" And if I could do something, they'd be like, "Oh, I know that's your passion," and I would get so upset. And I'm like, "That's no," So I can appreciate what you're saying. It makes a lot of sense.
Yes. I want to add a second. Part to that.
Please go.
If you don't know, go looking. Be vigilant about just looking at. I mean, there's millions of things that people are doing in this world. One of them got to touch you. So just start looking. If you're on social media, start looking. You can start trending. All right, let me look at food. Let me look at travel. Let me look at music. Let me look at public speaking. Let me look at electronics. Let me look at computers. Let me look at programming. I mean, the list I can go on for hours. There's so many choices. One of them got to touch you. At least one of them got to touch you. So go out there and start looking for things that you could possibly, you can say, not that. That's all right. Keep looking. One of them going to touch you.
Let's go, or rather get into the conversation of this fear this fear that we're all dealing with, because you and I recently, just before we got on the broadcast, we're talking a little bit about an individual that we know who was reaching out in a sense. I'm not going to put their total thoughts out there, but was reaching out on social media in a sense to have a moment of, hey, listen, I'm really worried. I'm really worried about all of this and what's going on. And I know I responded, and my response was the fact of history, and I'm summarizing, history is our best teacher. Why is it, David, that we have these experiences, again, history, to teach us and alert us from experience how to deal with these situations, and we don't listen to these thoughts, which or I should say in these experiences, which lead us into almost a state of panic? Because the situation is this is not the first pandemic. This is not. All right. When we take the plagues that ravaged Europe, when we take Ebola, which has ravaged certain continents, all right, when we take some of the plagues of centuries back, all right, that and perhaps maybe somebody who is more an authority would probably be like, no, this is the first pandemic. All right, so sue me. All right. But all right, when it comes to these things, humanity has experienced these things before. What is our inability to listen to the past, to take these experiences and have them as a map for the future, which would in a sense help us deal with this fear?
Yes. That's let's unravel what's going on for people so they can understand the source. I think it's really important that we understand the cause so that we can best understand the effect. So fear is an effect. So what is that cause? Now, we already have a natural ability, sort of a focal point that if something occurs that is outside of our natural state, fear arises to keep us alert and perhaps get to safety, right? It's a mechanism.
True.
Right. So now I often ask people when they have anxiety attacks or even the other side, depression, and it's inside this encapsulation of fear. What is the fear about? Right. It's not just fear. What is it about? It's a specific thing, right? Like for let's say right now, it's not a fear. I'm running out of toilet paper. I'm not having food and I don't have no water. That's not the fear. Right. The actual fear, and this is a big, take a big gulp, the fear is death.
Trigger warning. This trigger warning, right? For anybody that's listening.
The fear is actually death. It's our relationship that, or our superstition, relationship, misunderstanding, or understanding about what is death. I don't want to die. That's at the heart of what's there. And probably perhaps for many people, that's the ongoing program of why we're doing the way we do our life, is that I'm just trying not to kick the bucket. So I'm just going to do my life like this. And then whenever it comes, it just comes. I don't, but going back to the point is, if we look at the cause, and I would ask everyone listening to ask themselves, what is it that I'm actually afraid of? So that you can actually make it more concise. And then I want each person to look a little deeper and try to come from a place of understanding that if it is in fact death, then why are we afraid of something that is part of the natural cycle of life? And then I want us to start to look at, are we actually afraid of dying, or are we actually afraid of living? Some people may have heard this before, and they may think it's like some catchy phrase, but it's not. It's actually something to go a little deeper. Now, if anyone's in the audience have practiced any form of meditation, any form, this is something that actually comes up. And if you haven't practiced any form of meditation, I do encourage you to start looking into simple practice of meditation, of focusing on your breath, et cetera, because there's actually a relationship to this mind state of fear or death, because when you're in meditation, you're sitting with yourself very still, hint, that's what most people are doing right now, is being with yourself and sitting still, and you got nowhere to go. You're hit with a plethora of thoughts that almost make no sense why they're coming up, because all you're doing in there is sitting still, and apparently looking like you're not doing anything. But what's happened is, and I'll put this in just layman's term, all the junk that we've been accumulating over the time, whether it's media, conversations, etc., I'm jumping back to feeding our soul, that which you're not giving life to, you're giving energy to death. Something is dying off.
Hey everyone, we hope that you're enjoying the interview thus far. We'd just like to take some quick time out to remind everybody to like, follow, share, and subscribe. With every like, follow, share, and subscription, it helps the Daylight Fit podcast to grow. And the more we grow, the more information we can bring to you, the listener. So please, take some time out, like, follow, share, and subscribe. Thank you.
And it's a background conversation that eventually, when you're sitting still and it starts to come up, you start to wonder, am I worthy? You start to wonder, does this make sense? You're trying to figure out what's the meaning of my life? Some people actually get to the point where they're dealing with the thoughts and fears about dying. Once you, through the process of examining, and you start to ask yourself, well, what am I afraid of? What specifically am I afraid of? And you examine it like you're a scientist. You start breaking it down into little points. Am I afraid of this? Am I afraid of losing those behind me? Am I afraid of moving on? Which one is it? Then we will see that examination will match the way we live our life. So it's not that we're afraid of death. We're actually afraid of living inside of life itself. And a lot of it comes because we don't know. It comes from a place of not knowing. And the fear that we're experiencing right now is a fear of the unknown, right? There's so many things that could come up. There's so many. It's like, is it going to come to my house? Is it coming to my town? I don't have my job. I don't even know when I'm going to get money, right? You can hear the conversations in social media. And what is going on is people don't know what to do, right? Inside this state of not knowing what to do, you trigger this mechanism that's inside of us called fright or flight.
Right.
I gotta go.
The fight or flight
do something.
Mentality. Right.
A good example of that, which didn't make any cognitively any logical sense, why everybody ran out and bought toilet paper. Right. And I know there's a lot of jokes about it, but I'm looking at it like, wow, that's the height of fear. I mean, you do things that's not logical.
Exactly.
Like, it doesn't make any sense to what is actually going on, but you felt you needed to do something. And why? Because you didn't know what to do, and that seemed to be the thing to do.
Because everybody was doing it. Everybody, that was the thing that, again, the media pushed, which was buy toilet paper, buy these things, it's something that I myself thought was... I didn't understand that because, and again, I'm not an authority, but if you are using that much toilet paper, then you're, in my opinion, at least as far as I've been taught, and again, I'm not an authority, David, but you're eliminating a lot of the virus out of your system. If you're going that much that you're running through toilet paper, Hey, and I'm not trying to make any joke, but I tried to get somebody to listen to this. You know what I mean? If you're going to the bathroom that much that you're just running through toilet paper, I'm not talking about a family of 6 or a family of 4, because it's multiple people. I can understand that. But if it's you and one other person, I don't get it. I really don't I don't understand that one. So, but I'm following you. Continue.
Yes. So it's let's look at that behavior, because it's a behavior, right? It's a behavior, and it was a group behavior. And I gave this analogy on a couple occasions when speaking to others. I said, if you were in a city street, let's pick like Philadelphia, New York, and you saw someone running down the street, you probably think, oh, he must be trying to get to work, or she must be trying to get to work, or something like that. They're late for lunch or something. But then let's say there's 10 people running down the street in the same direction. Right. Eventually, what you're going to do is like, something going on I need to know about. Or maybe they doing a run-a-thon or something. I mean, there's 10 people. Now, let's escalate that to 30 people. Automatically, you're going to look around and say, wait a minute, there's 30 people running down the street in the same direction. Something's going on. And you're going to start looking around saying, do I need to run too?
Right.
100 people, you ain't asking no questions. You running. You see 100 people running down the street, you ain't asking what's going on. You be like, listen, I need to go. I'll figure that out later.
Yeah.
This is this different stages of what occurred in the initial sort of the media sharing about the virus and everything. And this is what has happened. People were moving through these different stages, and they just saw people doing things. They figure, just for my own well-being and safety, I'm just going along. There's no thinking involved. There's no processing involved. So what happens when we're in fear? Our processes to acknowledge and analyze or even assess a situation actually drops out, because you don't have time to think. You need to react. That's it. That's an instinctive behavior that's in us as a human being. But there is no actual visible threat.
Right.
So what occurs is your body goes through a chemical reaction to accommodate you to run, right? Your adrenal system goes, I need to pump you up so you can make a quick exit. There's a bear in the woods and he's going to try to eat you. You better run. Don't be thinking about how fast the rear going to be. So that's an instinctive behavior. And so we're ready and charged to run. But guess what? There's no bear in the woods trying to eat you. It's not visible. And then you didn't run. So then your chemical system it's got, but it wasn't used. And now your body has to purge out the adrenals out of your body because they weren't used. And I'm not going to get into the biological aspects in the show right now, but if you look at it, your body now has made waste.
Right. I was actually getting ready to touch on that, because all that stress and all of that in that whole fight or flight mentality, and we're talking right now, and everybody's like, we have to boost up our immune system. That actually helps to lower your immune system, if I'm correct. It actually is putting more stress on everything that is going on, and it's putting that stress on the nervous system. It's putting that stress on in your mind. So, which takes me to the next question. The media. I'm not just saying social media. I'm not talking about just the news media. I'm talking about the media as a whole. How do we get the grip on our minds? Because the whole thing of it is, it seems as though, I get it. We need to know what's going on. But we recently talked to Bill Corzija. He was on the show, and he runs a financial firm. And we were dealing with how to plan for as things go along financially. And we were talking about the media. And he was saying the thing of it is we need to remember is that the media is not like the news media of the past, where it's about information, getting us the information we need. They have to pay to be on TV. Things need to be on TV. So the thing of it is, when you know that it's about what do they call it, ratings and all of that, and they keep pumping. And I'm watching this. I understand we're in a whole different mindset, a whole different world where we need to be in touch with things and we need to know what's going on. But how do we control our minds? How do we control our minds knowing the fact of that this fear is continuing to be pumped into us and it can hurt us just as badly or worse as the virus?
Yes. So I do want to reiterate, when we are in fear, we put our body in a state of stress, an unnecessary amount of stress if it continues, and we lower our immune system. So it's counterproductive to being fortified against something that attacks your immune system.
Is
right?
Say it again, please. Say it again, brother. Say it again.
Fear is counterproductive because it lowers our immune system and that which we need to counter the virus. We need a working immune system. So fear is counter to that. So I mean, we should take this what was just said and say, this is a state of urgency for me to get my immune system in a state of wholeness. And so there's media, right? Media saying this, media, and it's got this left, right, up and down. Everyone's got their points of view. Oh, the president don't know what he's doing. This person don't know what he's doing. But we're not ready. If you keep listening to all this, what it does, it gives you a state of no hope.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
And what happens when it's a no-win situation when you start to think about it like that, and that's when fear kicks in heavy. And you may think, and I'm being tough, I'm trying to stick it out, this ain't bothering me. Yes, it is. And what you don't realize is how it's creeping up on you. Right? Because here's the thing. And I'm going to write a piece on this because I was reading that same person who posted, and I said, I need to write something about mental fortitude.
Right.
Now, I'm just going to speak about the United States as a general conversation. I'm not pointing fingers at people or not here to blame anyone. It's an assessment. Our general state. And here's the thing. If you don't tell the truth about what's going on, then you're not going to be able to change it. That's the bottom line. So I'm just here just speaking a truth. And I just say, prove me to be wrong. But our general state of health, of mental health in the United States is weak. Very true.
I have to agree.
My assessment, my personal assessment as an observer of what is taking place, I look at him like, wow, if you ain't got nothing to work with, as I was sharing earlier, if you're not feeding your soul, then you ain't got nothing to grab from. You ain't got nothing to pull out of your toolbox to get you through a situation. So mental fortitude is something that you develop over time. It's not a flip the switch and it's there. It's something that you got in your reserves, and you've been doing things to allow you to have mental fortitude. So basically right now, let's assume that none of us got mental fortitude and we need to get started today. All right. So let's level the playing field. I ain't got it. You ain't got it. And everybody who's listening ain't got it. We ain't got no mental fortitude. We out here fumbling out trying to figure out what's going on. So where do I begin? All right. So the first thing to do, which everyone is already in the perfect position, turn off your TV, turn off your phone for about 30 minutes. Just turn it all off.
30 minutes, right? Brother. That's a long time. I don't know if I could do with that.
Listen, I was about to say an hour, but I was being fair.
Brother, see how I need to be caught up. I need to know what's going on 24/7. I don't, what?
You said 34/7.
34/7.
So I'm glad you said that, because the moment, and everyone do your assessment when I said that, what triggered you in that moment, because that's what you're going to need to contend with. If it's very similar to what you just said, Simone, if you're like, well, I need to know what's going, but hey, hold up. This is what we're checking out. All I'm asking you to do for 30 minutes out of your 24-hour day. That ain't nothing.
That's true.
But our relationship to stillness is shows our level of strength.
A lot of people are afraid to be still.
Yeah, I know.
I've heard people tell me, like, I hate being still. I hate it. Like, literally, like, wow. Like, yes. they have a traumatic or a phobia of it.
Mm-hmm. Yes, they actually have it's very, for some people, it's painful. Actually, physically painful. And I can talk about that in just a couple minutes. So we take 30 minutes, turn everything off. Just turn it off. Right? And I'm not going to ask you to do any magic mastery stuff right now. I'm just going to ask you to just be still for 30 minutes. And I want you to take into account what is going on with your thought patterns. Keep a notepad or something nearby and write down what's coming up. And I want you to see what's going on inside your head on paper, because you're going to think a lot of different things. You just write them down. And you do that for 30 minutes. And then I want you to look at that sheet of paper and start to look at the items that those are your thoughts. I want you to start looking at those thoughts. And I want you to pick one of those thoughts, just one. And then I want you to take another sheet of paper. You write down that one thought. And then you start asking questions as if you were interviewing someone. So why is this thought here? When did this thought begin? Why is this if it has a lot of energy around it? If you find yourself avoiding it, why do I avoid this thought? Why do I have is this a thought that has a problem with me? It doesn't have to be a negative one. It could be something that, could be a positive one. But we want to see the mechanism of your mind. Because through the practice of meditation, some people think it's about make your mind quiet and no thoughts. No, it's not. It's about you observing what's there, so you understand how it works. The moment you understand how it works, you are now sitting in the seat of causing it to go a certain way. Right now, we have it flipped around. We gave our mind to someone else and say, hey, fill it up with what you got and make me whole. Well, that ain't happening. And the people who putting out the stuff don't know you personally, and they're not trying to fill your soul with something that is fortified. They're just saying this is something that is sensationalizing our programming, our brand, and we know the mechanics of psychology, and you're going to keep coming back to us because we don't give you an answer, and you're going to keep asking questions. I mean, that's media. So get stuck in a cycle, right? So we understand
destructive cycle.
It's actually destructive. And I'm going to point out another thing that, so if a person says I'm not in fear, well, they're in another spectrum called depression. And they actually go hand in hand. Depression is like, I don't know what's going on. I don't know what to do. And I'm feeling hopeless, and I'm starting to lose my vitality about myself and my life. So it's not necessarily a direct, flight and fright scenario, but you fall into depression. Some people in this particular state right now are sleeping longer, eating a lot of junk food, watching all kinds of things on the media, and they're just like becoming like sluggish in their expression, right? So these are some hints towards people creeping towards depression, when your energy is your vitality is going down, down, down. Anxiety starts to kick in, and there's mechanisms, and we got to understand there's triggers to these mechanisms, and we're not.
Just a moment, David. Just a moment. I just had I don't know what that was. I don't know if somebody tried to call or what have you.
That's it. Yes.
That's all right. That's the good thing about being able to edit.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. All right, we'll cut that out.
I don't know where that came from. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
It's quite all right. It's quite all right. So going back to the exercise, I don't want to get too far away from that. The exercise is for each of us to look at what is the cause of the situation. A lot of times we think we need to do things other than just sitting still and observing and assessing. But they're very valuable skills to dealing with many different things in our lives. Some people go through their life and never focus on themselves, focus on the way they've done things, and they probably don't self-correct. And they just thinking the world is against them and life is not moving the way they want to. Or they may be on the other spectrum of, oh, I don't care about all that stuff. I'm just floating through life. I'm just doing what, it's important to know what is at cause, especially when you realize there's a direction to my life. I'm here with a purpose. And this whole scenario, what we're dealing with right now, is forcing people to understand what is my purpose? Because I thought it was going to work, going to school, making money. Well, I'm not doing that right now. So now what?
Going to that age-old question about the meaning of life.
Yes, sir.
Which has an answer, which everybody has. We have thrown out there as though it's untouchable, untangible.
Yeah. It's that's for a quick focus on that. That question is an old age question. It's a question of an inquiry, I believe, that was instilled in humanity to seek out the answer. Not that you're going to have the answer, to seek out the answer for yourself. What is the meaning of life? And start observing it and seeking it out. And that's what happened to me. I heard that question and I was like, I knew, and I had these sensations of, I was doing a lot of different things as a young person, and I was happy at doing it. But there was something I felt bigger. It was like as if you stepped out of a room and went into a stadium, and you was like, "There's more than what I'm doing out here." Right? I'm not confined either. So let me go find out. And the moment I took that initiative, I realized, wow, one, there's a lot of things I did not know. And I'm eager to learn more so that I can improve on this mission that I'm on.
I agree. I think the flip side of what you're saying is, for me, it was, what is my purpose within life? So when I kind of realized my purpose, that's when I got connected to what you're saying, which is that broad. It's like your sight opens up way bigger. Because I feel like when you're in line with what your purpose is, all the things you learn, it's almost magical. And I don't like to really use that word, but it's almost magical in the sense it's like a road appears out of nowhere, or you're being led, and all of your experiences kind of help you. For me, in the direction you're supposed to be going, which is close to that meaning of life.
Yes. I'm glad that you said that. It does seem magical because you're not pushing a button and seeing a result immediately. But you just imagine life like a stream of water, and it's just moving. And when we decide to step into it, we get to move along with it. Right?
True.
Right. That's the visual that I give myself. It's like when I don't feel, and I use the word flow a lot, right? When I say flow, that's what I'm looking at. There's a flow that's always happening. When I step into it, I'm moved along to where I need to go. I'm not trying to, run up the hill every time, up the mountain. It's like, I'm just going to step into the flow and allow it to move me where I need to be. All right. So, I wanted to share something about the fear, just so that we give another level of focus. Fear is a mechanism that is a part of our human construct. Do not deem it as something wrong or bad. It works when it works. It's to help protect you in the time of need when you need to run or to get to safety. So it has a purpose. Now, what's occurring right now is we have allowed ourselves to be fed by a machine that has no personal involvement in our personal development. It's just pumping out stuff, and we're gobbling it up because we think just because it's pumping out, I need to gobble it up. That is because you don't know the purpose or the direction of your life. The moment you have purposefulness and direction, when you engage with it, you're just picking things out. Oh, I'm looking at this from a place of understanding to see where the human consciousness is right now so that I can see how I can serve people better. I just need to understand where people are. Not jump in there and just be like, oh God, and swipe and swipe and swipe and swipe and swipe and swipe. And you're just trying to figure out, oh, you have no meaning as to why you're in there. You're just looking for the next little energetic high or, a blip. Oh, let me look at that. Oh man, she looked good. Oh, he looked good. Oh man, I like that. That was funny. I thought of this. And it's just like, it's chatter, but it's not fulfilling. It's not fulfilling. And then eventually it's like you going and buying some food that has no nutrition. And at the end of and then after you finish it, you're going to be hungry again. And that's what's happening when we are looking at too much of the media. So the next thing, after you did your assessment, if you can limit your day to a portion of time, I would prefer people say 15 minutes. If you need to check in what's going on, 15 minutes is ample enough time for you to understand what's going on and what to do about it. And then you drop out of it. If you start going beyond 15 minutes, what's going to happen is you're going to get sucked in and you're going to be looking at all the different things associated with what you saw. And you basically, none of them are giving you the solutions to help yourself. They're just reporting. And you just keep eating and eating and eating. And you're trying to figure out, I don't know what to do. Well, none of them are telling you what to do. And you haven't told yourself what to do. So minimize your time to 15 minutes of having to check in. And then once you do that, turn it off. And if you can continue the practice of doing silence for 30 minutes each day, it's actually very beneficial to your soul, because being quiet allows you the opportunity to tune. I'm using this word specifically, tune in to the right channel.
I like that.
Yes.
So David, let's get this call to action. Let's go back over this again for everybody, because we're getting closer to our time. I know you've got other things that other interviews you're getting ready to conduct and other work that you're doing. Let's deal this call to action. So one, all right, what is the homework that our listeners have to do? I know they're gonna do the steps. What would we call these steps?
I'm gonna call it the path to freedom. How about that? That's what we're gonna call it, right? Because it's time for people to get freed up in the mind and free themselves, and because they feel bind up. So the first thing to do, going backwards in time, we need to take an assessment of where we are, right? So we got to look at what is it that we are afraid of, right? If you're saying you're not afraid, then I ask you to go a little deeper. If you're not in a place of fear, then look on the other side of depression, being not in action, and the energy levels are going down, et cetera, et cetera. Look at it and just pick one, maybe a fear that's coming up. I don't know what's going on, et cetera, et cetera. And I want you to look at why you are afraid of that. And then I want you to keep asking. Next answer may come up, and keep asking the question, why am I afraid of that? And see where you arrive. And then you'll see what is the cause of your fear. Now that you know what is the cause of your fear, you can decide what you want to do about it. All right, so that's step one. Step number 2, 30 minutes a day, be in silence. Turn off the TV, cell phones, computers, etc. Just turn them off for 30 minutes. You don't even play music. Just 30 minutes.
No music, brother. No music.
I know.
My tunes, brother. My tunes.
Gotta have my jams, man. How Just 30 minutes out of your 24-hour day. Just 30 minutes. Turn it all off and just be still.
What about the tranquil music? Because I know I know my listeners. They're gonna be like, "What about that tranquil rain-making music and all that, or just dead silence?"
We want to experience silence. Then, I'm not saying the music, like that type of music, yeah, it's enjoyable, but it is an external stimuli. We want to get in the practice of being with ourselves. The point is, I want to be with myself. No external influences whatsoever. Just want to be with myself. We didn't have this thing as a norm before, being with yourself. Being with yourself meant being with somebody else. That's the way we looked at it, right? We define ourselves by how we are being with others. But when do we actually be with ourselves?
Okay. All right.
Yeah. So we're just going to be with yourself, and let me turn it up. If you want to show love for everybody else, how about you be still for a moment and show some love for yourself?
Very true. You can't love others if you can't love yourself.
Right. So let's be still and love ourselves, because that's the purpose of us doing it. We spend 30 minutes loving on ourselves, just being with ourselves, like, wow, I'm breathing, I'm here, I'm present. Wow. And then what we're doing is we're assessing with your little notepad on the side. And notice that you're not using your phone, because the moment you had that phone on, you're going
Instagram, social media, Facebook.
Distracted. So get yourself a pen and some. Exactly. And write down what thoughts are coming up. You're just observing. Oh, I'm thinking about this. I'm thinking about that. Oh, I'm thinking about this. I'm thinking about lunch. I'm thinking about, and just look at the mechanism. You just want to understand how you work, what you think about a lot. Then pick one. I want you to observe a little.
Repeat
closer.
That one more time, David. You broke up. I think the connection was having some problems. What was that?
Yes. You write down on your list the thoughts that are coming up, and then you pick one of the thoughts out of your list, and then I want you to observe a little closer and start looking at, like an interviewer, start asking it questions. I know it's a little strange, a little odd, but what you're doing is you're getting to the root cause of what is going on. Then once you do that, you're like, why am I always thinking about food? So how long you been thinking like this? Well, why do you think about it so much? And then what happens is you start to realize that the mechanism of your mind is running on a loop, and you're not doing anything. You're not causing anything. So you're just like a program running by itself. When it's like that, it's like, how can you build your direction or your purpose if you got a program running in a loop over and over and over again? And the only time that you can see it happening is just being still. When someone says they're bored, that's okay. Let's write that down. Well, why are you so bored? Well, I don't know what to do. Well, why don't you know what to do? There's plenty of things to do. So why don't you know what to do? Oh, I don't know. Well, can't you do something now about it? Well, what is that? You're sitting still. You have access. Your computer's on. Your Wi-Fi is working. So there's things you can learn online. There's things you can do. You got any interest? Well, I don't feel like it. Well, all right. Well, why don't you feel like it? Well, with everything going on. So now what you're doing is looking at your internal dialogue and seeing how you're stopping yourself from fueling your soul, stopping yourself from building your immune system, stopping yourself from loving on yourself.
David Bey, everyone. David, thank you so much for coming on to the show. I appreciate you. It's always a pleasure anytime that you come. As always, please give the individuals out there where they can find you on your social media. I always find it ironic when we have these type of conversations, how we point people back to social media and things to find us. Like, just tune it out for a second, but if you want to find me, just pop up here. But hey, such is the nature of the beast, right? Please let everybody know where they can find you.
You can find me in the Matrix as Agent Bey on Facebook, Instagram, agentbey.mind, agent, AGNTBEY, period MIND, agentbey.mind, or you can go to davidbey.com. I'm quite searchable on the interwebs.
David, thank you for stopping by and giving us your time, your energy. I know you're a very busy person. It's a lot going on, so much out there. We're going to continue these type of talks and conversation throughout much of what's taking place, not just because of the COVID-19 situation, just because of the fact of it's time. It's time. We need to have these type of conversations, and here we're going to continue to bring the people necessary for all of you out there who are listening, who are tuning in, to get the information, ask the questions, and take back with you the tools so that you can, to quote David, get your path to freedom. David, thank you so much again. Always a pleasure.
Thank you.
Hey, you, with the earbuds in their ear. Have you ever wanted to start your own podcast? When I was trying to get my podcast off the ground, I had a lot of questions. How do I record an episode? How do I get my show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and all the other places people like to listen? How do I make money from my podcast? The answer to every one of these questions is really simple. Anchor. Anchor is a one-stop shop for recording, hosting, and distributing your podcasts. Best of all, it's 100% free and ridiculously easy to use. And now Anchor can match you with great sponsors too, so you can get paid to podcasts. I like to upload my episodes directly to the app and then promote. So if you've always wanted to start a podcast, make money doing it. Go to anchor.fm/start to join me in the diverse community of podcasters already using Anchor. That's anchor.fm/start. I can't wait to hear your podcast. I want to take the time out to thank David for coming to the show and bringing his positive energy and his education where it deals with this particular subject. I hope that the conversation that we had today is helping many of you out there who are listening, and I hope that this is something that you feel compelled to share, which will help somebody else. I've been recently having conversations, checking in with people via social media because of course, we're still social distancing, even though we're open. And the thing of it is that I have been watching many of my friends. I'm watching the things in the news. Like of late, they were talking about in China and the Mongolian era, there's the resurgence of the bubonic plague, and there's another issue that they have with swine flu, and then them talking about certain things that's going on here in the United States, how the coronavirus is surging again here in the United States. And the biggest thing again that I worry about is, of course, fear. It's fear. When you're fearful, you don't act rationally. If you take the time right now, and this is something I want everybody to do that is listening right now, I want you to sit up, close your eyes, and think about a time where you were genuinely fearful. You don't have to share it. You don't have to tell anybody. Just think about it. Think about a genuine time where you were fearful and the thoughts that went through your mind at that time. Now, as you're doing that, I want you to, this is called, this is the use of it, practicing an empathetic thought. I want you to take that feeling and now replace that memory that you have of fear with anybody else's thoughts about the virus or anything else that's going on. It could be the virus, it could be about racism, it could be about anything. Now that thought that you have of fear, I know with myself, whenever fear hits me, it's a surge of thoughts. And it's almost as if, I don't know if many of you, when you have a cell phone and you're in a bad area and you're talking to somebody and you get that staticky thing where it's like it's like a breakup, and what takes place is you're trying to hear, but it's like patches of blank with information. And that's what fear is to me. It's when your thoughts are moving so fast and then it's blankness, and you can't control, and it forces your body to react. And that is a bad thing, because consider that's just in the moment, but consider a long-term fear. Consider individuals that are in the house fearful. Consider individuals who are right now scared to interact with people. Consider individuals who are taking in the news and the media and things of this nature. Consider people who are on social media communicating with other individuals and hearing their thoughts that may not agree with them. Consider this. And now let's consider the fact of a lot of what the information that is being put out there, I should say a lot of the content, content information that's going out there. Is it healthy? Is it practical? That's one thing we try to do here. Everything that we put out here on the There Is Fit podcast, we want it to be something that you can take away. We want it to be a tool. That's why it's no accident when I ask guests, give the listeners 3 tips, 3 tools. The whole conversation itself is meant to be a tool. Because the thing of it is that, let's just be honest, we're having these conversations. If you're tuning in, you're listening, these are the type of conversations that you are geared to. These are the things that you like to hear. These are the things that you're thinking about. But everybody does not have access to this type of communication. When I say access, we could assume, and I don't like to assume, because I do take that old statement, when you assume, it makes an ass out of you and me. But the situation is, we cannot assume that everybody has access to communicate in this way with individuals, or access to these tools. To some individuals who are tuning in right now, these tools, this podcast is new to them. My goal, my hope for everybody that's listening is that you take away tools that can help you within your life. Because fear is a serious thing, and we're dealing with so much right now. When you see individuals pulling guns on each other, when you see individuals fighting, yelling, protesting, and all the things that's going on, and people who are afraid of the virus, and people who are saying that it's not what we think, and the CDC and the WHO, and if you are not in a state of mind where you can create filters to filter out the opinions and raw emotion versus fact, then what takes place is that fear is left to breed. And when fear breeds, ignorant actions aren't far away. They are not far away. And we need to think about that. There's a reason why we are supposed to study history. Let me go back. In my opinion, there's a reason why they are supposed to teach history in school. And I'm not going to get into the whole thing of the propaganda of what history and all that. I'm not going to get into that. I'm going to assume, or rather for everybody that's listening, we're going to assume this. We're going to assume at this moment that the original teaching of history is for a particular purpose. And the particular purpose is to learn what has taken place in the past so that we are educated about events in the future. When you know your past, when you know the past of your family, of your culture, of your history, when you know the things that you've dealt with, you have a wealth of information to borrow from. You have ideals, science, concrete works that you can pull from, because we have all been living a very long time. Humanity is not as new as some would like to say. So the thing of it is that this is the reason why we have history and why we're supposed to study history from a more open, balanced, well-rounded, empathetic view. We're supposed to learn because human beings have faced many things before. As many people want to say, well, we've never faced this before. I beg to differ. I beg to differ. And then knowing some of the things that we as human beings do and have researched and learned and read about, there's much that we have hidden away from each other for many different purposes. I'll give you a quick example. Everybody's talking about taking down the statues of these Europeans who have had slaves and enslaved or practiced prejudice. The thing of it is that if we, while taking these down, and don't misunderstand, I do agree with taking some of these figures down. Do I agree with erasing it from history? No. Do I think that all of these statues should be destroyed? No. Do I think all of them should be taken down? No. I think the truth needs to be talked about with a more balanced idea so that we can start to see all points of view of what's going on, because society changes. It's the hope and the work that we're doing, the teaching of history in a more balanced understanding, the teaching of the understanding of mindfulness and having these tools is so that society can progress in a positive way. But I'm getting off topic. I hope that everybody liked this episode. I hope that you got something positive out of it. If not, perhaps again you can share it with somebody and maybe they will get something positive and you can sit down and have conversation. If you do like what you heard today, do us the favor. Please let others be a part of this, and at the same time, I'm sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. If you like what you heard today and you want to communicate with us more, then do us the favor and hit us up at our email, which is daylafit13@gmail.com. We are also on social media. Instagram, we are DE_LA at DE_LA_Fit Podcast. On Facebook, we are available at De La Fit Podcast. Same for Twitter, we are at De La Fit Podcast. Don't mind me, you all. It's been a long morning so far with much work. And also, please feel free to go to our website, which is www.daylafitpodcast.com, which is getting ready to undergo some updates. I'm very excited about those as coming soon. Some amazing things will be employed. Also, we've got some interesting news coming up soon, probably within the next 2 weeks. We'll be available on a new platform very, very, very soon. I'll have more news about that, but I don't want to share it right now. But we will be sharing more news about that as powers that be express to us what's going on. So I'm very excited about making moves and progression. As always, I hope that you all have a beautiful day. Remember, each one teach one. We are the village. It takes a village to raise a child, and we are all somebody's child. So therefore, we need to all think of ourselves as family. While we're thinking of each other as family, do not forget to be good to yourself. Take care of yourself. I know if you're doing the best you can, you're practicing mindfulness and trying to treat yourself well, that pretty soon, no matter what's taking place, whether you understand it or not, you're going to come to an awakening which will allow you to not only treat yourself well, but treat others well as well. With that being said, everybody have a great and peaceful weekend. Peace. Peace.
You've been listening to the Delafit podcast. Ta-ta for now.